Yo, what is good, YouTube, and welcome back to another JC2K video. In today's video, we're going to be ranking the best shooting guards in NBA 2K24 MyTEAM here on this tier list. Before we hop into the video, if you haven't already, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Help me push towards the 15,000 subscriber mark on the channel. I upload every single day, and I would really appreciate it if y'all do subscribe. Without further ado, let's hop right into it, and let's start off with Allen Houston. Allen Houston, really fun offensive shooting guard. Great release, moves okay. Does have a high enough ball handle to time and burst. He's not a bad card, but he's not a top tier shooting guard either. We got about 25 cards on this list, maybe 26. So we're going to have about 5 guys in each tier, probably not exact, but it'll be pretty close. And Allen Houston, I think, is probably in the middle too, maybe lower half of the shooting guards, but he probably is about middle. I think B tier is fair. He's not an elite level defender. He's not incredible with his size or anything, but he's a good card. I think Brandon Roy is an S tier shooting guard still. Even with some of the new shooting guards we've gotten, I do believe B Roy is still top 5, probably top 3. The fact that he can get every badge is a huge positive. I just got a bronze clamps badge and I'm strongly considering giving my B-Roy clamps now. I just don't know. Maybe I sell my MJ and use B-Roy at the 2 instead. I'm trying to figure that out because I love Paul George and I locked him in. But B-Roy's a great card and I'm still trying to find a way to put him in my lineup still because I think he deserves to be on the team. A phenomenal card. He was a very rewarding, grindable card in Season 1 who is going to have long-term viability, especially if you badged him out all the way around elite. Great release. Does everything well on the court. Buddy Hield is better Kyle Korver. I legitimately think you could argue he's B tier. The thing that makes Buddy Hield so much better than this Kyle Korver card is, number one, he's like 20 speed faster. He has a very similar glitchy super fast release, and he also has an 86 ball handle. So he's much faster with the ability to timing burst, so his movement is a lot more elite than Korver's. He even has silver handles for days. Defensively, he's still not good, but he's basically just better Kyle Korver. I would say back of B tier is fair for him. Chris Morris is probably going to go A tier. I think he's back half of the top 10 of the shooting guards. He's 6'8" with a really nice release, great animations, curry slide, all that type of stuff. So he's got great size, great release, great animations. But stats and badges are not incredible on him. He is decent all around statistically, but nothing too insane. He's a top 10 shooting guard in the game, but I wouldn't go any further than that. Chris Mullin, I mean, when you look at the worst shooting guards on this list, I feel like Chris Mullin is probably in the bottom 5. I just don't think he's very good. I understand he's an okay-ish defender, but not a good defender by any means. And he's not, I mean, he's an elite shooter stat and badge wise, but his release is not incredible. It is still very greenable. I mean, he's still a very good shooter, but I don't think he's truly dominant enough as a shooter to justify the fact that he's not really good in any other area. And these are the best of the best. I don't think he's any higher than D tier. Clyde is probably top of B or bottom of A. Very athletic, decent release, not an elite level shooter, but pretty good release. Super athletic, 6'7" at shooting guard, which is really good size. Defensive badges aren't amazing, but stats are okay. I thought Clyde Drexler was a pretty good card, and I think he's still a pretty decent one. I think B tier is fair. DeMar I don't think is very good. I think DeMar is at best C tier. Not a particularly good shooter, kind of a mediocre release. Not an elite level defender either. His animations are not as fast as you'd like in terms of pulling out from the mid-range and stuff like that. He's just not that good. I'm not a big fan. I don't think Devin Booker's top 5 anymore because of the gameplay patch and the way the gameplay now plays differently, with a lot more latency as well, which is really, really challenging. Makes 3 hunting a lot more challenging with the latency that we've been dealing with. Not to mention the fact that shooting is now tougher as well. I just think Devin Booker isn't quite as glitchy as he once was. I still think he's a really good card and one of the best offensive shooting guards in the game, and I see why a ton of people are still running him. I don't think he's top 5 anymore, though. I don't think. He's close, but I don't know if he's quite top 5 for me anymore. Dominique, I think is A tier. I really like Dominique. I think he's a confident A tier. He's 6'8", has the curry slider release that I green consistently, and is super athletic. Pretty good defender as well. Not incredible, but not horrible. I like the card. Drazen Petrovic, I do not like the card at all. He's the worst. He's like the worst card on this list, basically, or at least top 3 worst cards. He's awful. And he might be the worst card on this list. I'm looking at these guys. These are the best of the best. I think he's the worst card on this list. Not a good card at all. Release is bad. And honestly, shooting is the only thing he does particularly well. But with a terrible release, he doesn't do that well either. He is not a good card. Very obvious D tier. Gordon Hayward is a pretty easy S tier, actually, I think. When you look at the stats and badges on this Gordon Hayward card, he is collector level. Not a lot of people have him, but he's got good size at 6'7". He's got good speed, good shooting, good dunking, and good defense. You look at the badges all the way around, he's super solid. Got some decent defensive badges, even if a lot of them are silver and bronze. Silver break starter, bronze handles for days and unpluckable, bronze limitless, great shooting badges. Finishing badges are okay. He's a pretty good dunker. He's a really versatile card with a money release as well at the shooting guard position. I think he is maybe the 5th best shooting guard in the game, but in that top 5, I think he's really viable. I think J.R. Smith is probably C. Not a huge fan of JR. I don't think he's a great card. He's not a great defender. He's an okay defender, but not great. He is pretty fast, but his release is a little bit slower than you'd like. I think I would take the guys above him, and I got to start putting a couple of guys in these lower tiers. I think JR has to go C tier for me. I do believe Julius Erving does get a top 5 spot still. Yeah. Even if it's 4th or 5th, he is in the top 5 for me. He's got a great player built an afro that makes him look taller than 6'7", which is what he's listed at. His release is incredibly smooth, so even though he's got a low 3-ball rating, he's an absolutely cash shooter. And then he's an absolutely incredible slasher and a capable playmaker with the MJ dribble style and a versatile defender. Really good card in S tier. Clay is mid, honestly. Like, at this point, he's not great, but he's still good enough to go B tier. He's a pure 3-and-D with a good release and great defensive ability. Outside of that, he's not great. Kyle Korver is C tier. I don't think he's quite D because he is such a good shooter, but he's super slow, doesn't defend at all, and with the shooting patch has been much more neutralized. He's back a C now. He is not nearly as good as he once was. Latrell Sprewell, also probably C. I would go top of C for him. I think he's a really nice budget shooting guard option. I think I would probably take him C, but you could argue B tier for Latrell. He's not a bad card. Luka, I am actually going to go D tier. Luka does not dribble well. He does not defend well. He does not dunk well. He is not fast, and he is not an elite level shooter. The stats and badges would say he is an elite level shooter and an elite level playmaker in certain areas, although without the speed, he's not going to be a good playmaker in this game. But the release is bad. He's my favorite player in the NBA right now. I am a huge Mavs fan. I love Luka. But this card's not good, and I'm not going to sit here and try to pretend like he is. I think he's D tier. I think he's one of the worst cards on this list. Manu Ginobili is pretty good offensively. I like the card. His release is good. He's got good speed. He moves pretty well. Definitely a much improved release this year. Playmaking is pretty capable. Very high ball handle. Can dunk wide open. Defensively, not great, but I think he's good enough to go B tier. Michael Finley's really good offensive card as well. Release is a tiny bit hitchy, but I actually like the card. Doesn't really have the playmaking badges, though. He's just a very athletic type of slasher type more guard. I don't think he's any better than Manu Ginobili, to be honest. I'd probably go B tier for him as well. The B tier is starting to get very, very crowded, but for good reason, I think. MJ is S tier. He's the second best shooting guard in the game, in my opinion. Elite level slasher and maybe the best perimeter defensive card in the entire game. Not the greatest interior defender, and he is not a great shooter. His release is honestly not the best, although it is very smooth and easy to grade. It is not fast, but he is an S tier shooting guard still, and one of the best cards in the game at the position, without a doubt. Paul George is the best shooting guard in the game, though. He's 6'8". He's got a very large player built, an elite level release, very capable movement as well, and he's a phenomenal defender. He is the best shooting guard in the game right now, and I don't think that's up for debate. Paul George is an absolutely incredible card this year. I love using Paul George cards in 2K, so him being phenomenal makes me very happy. I just wish the gameplay was a little bit more 3-hunt heavy and a little more skillful right now, because that's my biggest complaint with the game. Not the fact that Paul George isn't fun, or they're not fun cards to use. Sam Jones is a pure shooter. He's got like 80 speed. He's on the same level as Kyle Korver. Honestly, he's kind of bad. I'm looking at these guys, and I feel like I got to move some cards down to balance out this list a little bit, but I don't really want to. Steve Smith, I'm going to go A tier. 6'8" shooter with, he's a 3-and-D. He's a 6'8" 3-and-D with pretty decent speed. He's just a better version of Klay Thompson, basically. He's bigger than Klay, maybe as good or better release, as good or better defender probably, or pretty similar defensively actually, and then it's going to be a better slasher. He's a little bit quicker. He's a better card than Klay Thompson. T-Mac is also an A tier for sure, like a very easy A tier. 6'8", great release, really good dunker, not an elite level defender, but still a very good card. Definitely A tier. Vince Carter, again, easy A tier. We're going back to back with the A tier cards. Vince Carter is kind of a slightly worse Dr. J. I would say shooting wise, they're pretty similar. Dr. J is a better defender and a slightly better playmaker, but Vince is still super athletic, a very good shooter, and an okay defender. Really, really good cards still. And then you have Zach LaVine, who's a great offensive card. Don't think he's quite good at, well, I think Zach LaVine's A tier because he's a really good shot creator. He's got a great release. He's a really good shot creator, and he's super duper athletic with good movement as well. The problem with Zach LaVine is more so, honestly, just the fact that he doesn't defend very well, but I still think he's good enough to go back half A tier. I know this list is a little bit more top heavy than normal, but honestly, I don't want to try to force guys down into lower tiers. I'm just going to leave it like this, a little more top heavy than my lists generally are, but I hope y'all do enjoy this video. If you do, make sure you hit that like button, leave a comment, and subscribe. I'll be back with more 2K content very, very soon, and I appreciate y'all. Peace.